Great, thanks for the opportunity, Jeff. I'm an entrepreneur in the cannabis industry. As he said, my name is Cliff Gieseneau, and Pierre and I are the joint CEOs of the SilverLeaf Fund. We're very excited today to present this opportunity to you, and it's the birth of a whole new asset class and a first for 12J. Our intention today is to introduce the fund and to share our passion and to tell you about the enormous opportunity in cannabis where you can get in on the ground. I'm going to begin with a brief profile of Pierre and myself. I'll then focus on why cannabis in particular and why South Africa is such an exciting place for it. We will then look at the value chain and where the fund will focus, as well as how we will approach the investments and why the opportunity is now. Our slides are full of information because we want to show the magnitude of this investment opportunity, and I'm going to be speaking swiftly. We hope to catch your interest because green is the new gold. Pierre and I have years of experience in this industry and other industries and are both incredibly passionate about this plant and how it is changing the world. We heavily invested in the industry and have spent the last few years in startup mode, getting businesses off the ground and understanding the landscape. I can confidently say that we have each put in our respective 10,000 hours. On my side, I've developed and launched a product called Leafolo, which is the world's first African herbal smoking blend designed to be mixed with cannabis instead of tobacco as a healthier alternative to make it burn better. I'm also a shareholder in CannaTrade Africa, which owns the Green Side, which is a cannabis wellness emporium here in Johannesburg, and I have retail kiosks in major malls, both in Johannesburg and in Cape Town, selling CBD products under the brand Taste of Cannabis. Pierre started ETV and YFM and has a lot of experience in developing startups within new industries. He now has his own cannabis cultivation and processing company called Cannabis, based in the Eastern Cape, and he's raised seed capital from Canadian investors for this business. He has worked closely with government and local farmers, and he consults on license and permit applications. He also has a master's in cannabis from an American college and is registered with the African Natural Healers Association as a traditional healer. We are both actively involved in industry associations and are lobbying along with other groups to get cannabis legislated with the right framework as quickly as possible so that local trade can happen. Pierre and I have been tracking the global industry, and we're looking to bring the lessons learned to bear here in South Africa. Our collective knowledge and experience and our expertise and our wide industry contacts are what we bring to the management team at SilverLeaf Investments, and we're both extremely excited to be involved, and we look forward to the journey ahead. So why cannabis? Well, it's been decriminalized 2 years ago here in South Africa and is legalizing globally at a rapid pace. We're in such crazy times. As I sit here, beer is illegal and weed is legal. The world is changing and cannabis is changing the world. It's a real legal industry in over 30 countries now and is one of the fastest growing industries with a compound annual growth rate of over 20%. There's still a stigma around the plant, and you probably won't see weed bars at weddings anytime soon. But statistically, at least 30 to 40% of our audience on this webinar uses it or has tried it. And for health and wellness, everyone has a story of someone that they know who is taking it. As recently as last month, the World Health Organization rescheduled cannabis from being a dangerous drug to actually having recognized medicinal benefits. Cannabinoids, which are a chemical extracted from the plant, are being used as adjunct therapies, and evidence-based research is coming out daily around their effectiveness for a whole host of conditions. CBD has exploded on the scene and is now widely accepted as a health and wellness supplement. Well, let's unpack the scope of this plant. It's about a lot more than recreational market and smoking weed and getting high. Although that is a big market, and after coffee, alcohol, and tobacco, cannabis is the most widely used substance in the world. There's so much more to this plant than most of us know or realize, and it's just so incredibly versatile. The uses are split between hemp and marijuana, and just to define the difference between them, it's all about the levels of the cannabinoid THC, which is the one that causes a psychoactive high. Hemp has little to no THC in it. Irrespective of the variant of cannabis, it's important to understand that this plant grows to full term in 4 months. Besides being a medical miracle plant, if you want to call it that, when it's the hemp variant, it has thousands of industrial applications and can be made into food, paper, clothing and textiles, packaging, building materials, and it's impacting on many, many industries. If we move to hemp en masse, we can save our planet by replacing fossil fuels with it, and we can even replace and reduce plastic. Hemp is part of the green economy, and it's reducing the effects of climate change by sequestering carbon, reducing the destruction of forests, and remediating contaminated soil. In fact, there's even a mining company up here in Johannesburg that's busy with this right now. So why South Africa? Where does South Africa sit? The legal cannabis industry is huge here and is already an estimated market that has attracted 2 billion rand of direct investment. South Africa is reputed to be the third largest producer in the world of illicit adult use cannabis, and some of the world's most famous strains are our landrace strains. Landrace meaning that they've been here for generations, like Durban Poison, Rooibart, or the Transkei weed. Cannabis loves Africa. Because of our abundant sunlight, our good soil, and our very favorable climate, we can actually get 3 harvests where in Europe they can only get 1 or 2. We could be a key production region for the world's legal markets. Our country as a whole is also globally respected for our agricultural export capability, unlike some of our neighbors. Since it was decriminalized in 2018, the government is very supportive and wants to enable this industry, but it needs assistance from the private sector. We know this industry can create thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of jobs. For example, in India, 90,000 jobs were created within a year of hemp being legalized there. This plant can solve some of our most pressing problems, if we can get it right. Job creation, rural economic development, poverty alleviation, and economic growth that we so badly need now after COVID. And we can bring small-scale farmers into both the formal economy and the tax base. The export opportunity is huge. With rand-based costs and dollar-based revenues, green really could be the new gold. So what is the opportunity? Well, Pierre and I are coming across companies on a regular basis that need funding and runway to bring this miracle plant into the world. We are aiming to cherry-pick the best and to empower and enable them for success. Let's take a look at the value chain. We've decided to focus on those areas that show the greatest potential for value creation in the short to medium term. Our initial focus will be on cultivation, because until there are plants in the ground, we really have nothing to work with. This will be followed by the establishment of extraction and processing facilities. We like both of these areas because they have high barriers to entry and high margins, especially for export. We're also looking at the picks and shovels of the industry, which is the equipment supply to cultivation. And in parallel with cultivation, we are going to focus on the opposite end of the value chain as well, which is the retail and consumer level, where trade is already taking place because of our CBD regulations. Channels to market are being built, and it's a brand grab right now out there with leaders starting to emerge. Both ends of the value chain have also got immediate export potential. In terms of our targeted returns, we're looking closely at training and education and cultivation, at cultivation level as well as into the medical fraternity, to raise knowledge and awareness, because as a country we need to skill up if we are going to export medical grade product. This will diversify the portfolio and the risk. We'll be taking a realistic risk-adjusted approach to our investments and believe that while blue sky returns are possible, we want to target a more conservative and prudent IRR of 20%. Everything we invest in is legal, and we are looking to back the jockey, as they say, and to aim for best of breed. Ideally, we are targeting companies that are post-revenue. We'll look at seed stage if it's very compelling and we believe that they can execute. And our main aim would be to get them investment ready in what we're calling the greenhouse, which is really a collaborative incubator space for cannabis businesses that we're looking to set up here in Johannesburg. The intention is to add value as quickly as possible and to bring more than just money. We will foster collaboration through our networks, provide some fiscal discipline and corporate governance support, and incubate those companies that need it. As I said, we are going to be taking a cautious and measured approach and learning lessons from the more mature markets like the US and Canada that we can then apply here. We've started our due diligence on a handful of prospects already, and the indicative numbers that we've seen so far are pretty healthy with good margins. Through our networks and associations, we have a solid pipeline of businesses that need funding and professional input. So the question is, why now? Well, this is a sexy industry, and increasingly it's enjoying political and public support globally. In fact, cannabis got more votes than Trump and Biden in many states. We have identified and have relationships with key players and hope to make acquisitions quickly post-funding. Our investment will target high returns businesses with low levels of risk, and the most important aspect, as I said, will be the management team and backing the jockeys. The industry is poised for explosive growth as legislation rolls out. Because of its early stage of the industry, as well as its illegal history, it hasn't had a professional, well-managed entry point for investors. And we believe that SilverLeaf is the right channel into this exciting new asset class. We have kept the minimum investment low to make it accessible to a wide investment audience, including many young first-time investors who know that this is a sexy category, and we will be promoting this fund in the traditional media as well as online. With some good opportunities wrapped in a tax-efficient 12J vehicle, a strong experienced board, and a measured approach where we add value, we're confident that we will reach our target raise and see our seedling businesses turn into solid investments. It's a very exciting time and a fun industry, and we hope that you come along for the journey. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
So thanks, Cliff. I think it is really an exciting opportunity, and it is a sunrise industry, and it has got a lot of media, and it has got a lot of interest. I have two questions over here, and the two questions are, where and how do you plant the cannabis, and how do you protect it from theft? And the second question is, how big a company or scale do you have to be in order to make the business viable?
Thanks, Jeff. They're both interesting questions. To answer the first one, there really are three ways to grow the plant. It's outdoors under our wonderful African sun. It's in a greenhouse, which is a combination of what they call blackout, because the plant has a particular photo cycle. So a greenhouse gives you the best of both worlds, and then it's indoor under artificial lighting. So typically medical grade product, especially for export, has to be grown in very specific conditions to prevent pests and all sorts of other things. So it's grown indoor, but there is the possibility of growing it in greenhouses, and it's much more economical to grow it in a greenhouse. So that's why we believe South Africa is also very well poised to be a production house for the rest of the world. And in terms of your second question, it really depends on the type of business, where they are in the value chain, and what they're looking to do. Cultivation is pretty expensive to set up, especially if somebody has to get a license or a permit. And farming is big money, and agriculture is a big investment. Retail is a lot less, and to launch a brand, low barrier to entry and a lot cheaper. And we're seeing a flurry of activity and a lot of products out there already on the market at that level.
And just to answer, how do you protect from theft?
Yes. So in terms of protecting from theft, it has to be, and even to get a license, especially for the medical grade cannabis, it has to be a very well secured facility. It has to have double fencing and cameras and that type of thing. There's also an interesting opportunity for underlying services across the value chain, one of those services being secure transport.
And I see that a lot of questions are flying in here. So the minimum investment is 50,000 Rand, as I understand.
Correct.
The target, is it a dividend yield?
No, look, it's a seed stage fund, excuse the pun, but we are looking, obviously, to pay out dividends, but probably not for the first year.
Okay. So the answer is that in the very short term, there won't be dividends, but in the long term, the intention is to declare dividends. The South African environment, can you talk very much about the South African regulatory environment? So we can just, the question is, can you just give some sort of broad framework?
Sure. So South Africa's been a little bit slow off the mark. Lesotho was the first country in Africa to issue licenses. Zimbabwe was the second. But the licenses in South Africa are currently being issued and are coming out. There's two types of license. There's what they call a hemp permit, which is pretty easy to obtain. It doesn't require that much investment other than large tracts of land. But when it comes to the high THC, more medical cannabis, that is quite an onerous process, and licenses have been issued and are being issued quite quickly.
Good. And then the last question, because we are running out of time, is that will you be leasing land and greenhouses, or will you be acquiring them?
It really depends on a case-by-case basis as we look at the opportunities.
Okay, great. So Cliff, great to have you. Thank you. I've had the pleasure of working with the SilverLeaf team. They've put together the Section 12J in a very, very short time. A very, very professional team, well experienced with both industry players and corporate finance players. Good luck with your raise, and wishing you much success.
Thanks very much.